younger and you've heard of the BeeGee's, that might conjure up images of the ultimate 1970s disco cheesiness, which to be fair, kinda true, but they own that shit. What doesn't come to most people's minds is genius songwriters. The song How Deep Is Your Love has become a revered standard in the soul music world because of its absolutely beautiful melody, lyrics, and unique but perfect chord changes. The chords take you on the perfect harmonic journey that lifts you up into the sky and gently places you down on a cloud. A flawless balance of consonant chords in the key and unexpected dissonant and delayed resolutions. Let's take a moment to look at the chords and then we'll figure out how to make a chord melody arrangement of this beautiful tune. The song is in the key of E flat, and the first couple of chords stay right in the key. We go from our 1 chord, E flat, to our 3 chord, and then to our 2 chord. You know, just right in the key, and then right away we go out for a moment. But when it comes to picking chords outside of the key signature, this one makes the most sense. We have a C7 that pulls us back into the F minor chord. So that's like a 5 of 2 F minor, and it just like, if you just know a little bit about music theory, you go, oh yeah, that makes sense, okay, cool. So we got E flat, G minor, F minor, and then beautiful, okay. And then we just continue on, and this part is a little bit funny. So now we have a G7 over to our 5 chord A over B flat. Now the G7 is not in the key, right? So we saw earlier that the 3 chord is a minor chord, is G minor 7. And I would sit around thinking about like, how does that work? You know, or why does that work? Because G7, it's not resolving, it's not a 5 away from our B flat, right? So why would we make that a 7 chord? And if you think about the melody, we can kind of hear along with it. It goes. So if we want to look a little bit deeper on how a chord may work in the harmony, you want to look at the melody, because the melody always is king. The melody decides everything. So we want to look at the melody and then look at the harmony around that and be like, okay, how does that work? So starting from that F minor chord, the melody goes like this. So that's from our F minor, our G7, to our B flat chord. And I think if you listen to the harmony, if we stayed in the key signature and used a G minor chord, it would sound like this. And there's something about that that just doesn't sound quite as nice, right? If we have that G minor 7 chord, like when we bring that melody in, that chord right there, it sounds kind of dissonant, right? It doesn't sound very nice. But if we do that with a G7 chord, it just sounds beautiful. And what we're creating when we add that melody note on top is a G7 flat 9. So it's interesting because it's like it doesn't quite make sense going from a G7 to a B flat, but it works so nicely. And just remember, the melody always determines where your chords are going. That's what we want to put on top most, and that's what makes this so nice and so genius right here. So then we move on to the pre-chorus, and this is a classic songwriting move. We start on the 4 chord for the pre-chorus, and we're continuing on diatonically for a moment, right? We do 4, which is A flat major 7, to our 3 chord, just going down like that, beautiful. All in the key, all nice. Then we have this jarring moment that pulls us outside of the key, that D flat 7 chord, or D flat 9 you might hear. Now when this D flat chord comes up, you might consider this modal interchange. We're switching from E flat major to E flat minor. So diatonically in the key of E flat minor, D flat is the flat 7 chord. So we're in that key, and we're going over there for a moment. And then we continue on in the key from our 3 chord to our 5 chord. So it's beautiful. This pre-chorus stays in the key and just has that one moment to take us out before we have this nice little turnaround, our 3 to 5, to bring us into the chorus where we come back in on the 1 chord. And that's a beautiful moment. Now again, thinking about the melody with this chord, I think it works so nicely because the melody harmonically fits in with both the F minor chord coming before it and that D flat chord. So it goes something like this. That would be like a D flat 13 right there. And then again we continue on, F minor to B flat. And then we have our chorus, and our chorus is just beautiful as well. We have our E flat chord, hang in there for a moment, go into our 4 chord, and then 4 minor. Now one thing that's interesting about this 4 minor chord is it's not just a 4 minor, it's not a 4 minor 7, it's a 4 minor 6. So you can clearly hear that F in there. And that really gives that chord an extra bit of character. And now we continue on, a little bit more interesting. We go to the E flat chord again. And here we have a D flat 6. Same kind of thing, same idea as a D flat 9 chord, but it's a 6. It's a little bit softer, not as dissonant, right? But it's very nice. It's very out of the key. And then here, such a beautiful moment. We go to C7, which is our 6th chord, but it's dominant. So in the key of E flat, our 6th chord is a minor chord, but here it's dominant, and that pulls us into our next chord, F minor. Which is a great change right there. So it's kind of like a 5-1. And then, instead of going to a 5 chord, right, you could think a common chord progression in jazz especially is 6-2-5-1, right? But a lot of the times, a 5 chord can be replaced with other things that'll pull us into the 1. And just as moving us into the 1 would be a 4 minor chord. And that's exactly what we see here. So we go from that C7 to that F minor chord, and then to an A flat minor 6, and then right back to 1 to resolve it. So throughout this whole song, in each section, there's these moments of resolving and not resolving, and it's just perfect. And that's exactly what music is: tension and resolution, and unexpected moments, right? When you think it's going to resolve, now let's think about how to turn this into a chord melody. So let's take just the chorus, and the first thing you do obviously is learn the melody on guitar. And after you kind of pick out the notes, what you want to do is find it in a pattern that you know. So if we're in E flat and I know this scale, I want to find all the melody in this pattern right here, just so it really sits in with how I see the guitar and I understand where it is in the scale. So after I've listened to the song and learned the chords and learned the melody, and I want to create a chord melody version, I could look at the fact that I'm doing this on a guitar, right? And E flat kind of sucks on guitar, unless I'm tuned to flat, which I'm not. So let's actually move this around. Let's move this up 1/2 step to E. And then I got these chords, open string chords, that I can take advantage of as I'm figuring it out. So we got this figured out. We got it in E now. Now let's find that melody in the key of E in our pattern. Okay? So it's going to go something like this. So after I've figured out the melody in the pattern that I'm going to use, in the key that I'm going to do it in, next I want to find a way to connect them with each chord. So for this part, the first 2 measures is all the E major chord. And I'm going to find the melody and see where it can fit in with the E major chords that I already know. So if I'm in this position, I'm looking around. Okay, where's an E chord that I can play? Something like this. This one's a little funny. Something like this. Okay, but I need to start on C sharp. So maybe I can go. That's a little funny too. Maybe if I bring it over here and find this pattern. Okay, that's like nice to play on guitar. I could find an E major shape. All right, so let's see if we could pick out these first 2 measures. And I'm going to start just by playing it in this pattern that I have now. Okay, how do I just bring in some of this parts of the chord around that? Maybe something like this. Here's my chord. yeah, so I went from here to here, just this triad, and I can think about some of these guitar moves. Maybe something like this. Now for the next measure, let's stay in this position just to keep it a little bit more consistent and find the melody over here. So it's gonna look something like this. Okay, so I have an A major 7 for that first chord, and maybe it'll go something like this. Kind of like that, but I want to get that B in there, so I could do an A6 like this. And then when I get to this note, I need to find that A flat 6, or that A6. So that's a little tricky, so maybe I need to find that F sharp up here. And how do I find an A minor chord? All right, so I can do it like that, right? Here's my A minor chord. And like in instances like this, I just kind of use my understanding of the notes to kind of start to make up my own chords, right? Because that's kind of what we need to do when we're picking out a chord melody. I know I need F sharp on the top, I know I need A on the bottom, and I need to C, the minor third there, to make it a minor chord. So it'd be like that. I can even use that open A string right there. So now we continue on back to the E major chord, and the melody goes like this. All right, so there's my B. I found my E major chord. Fits in nicely. And then right here, I need to find a D chord, but maybe I could use that open D string because we put ourselves in a very nice key to do that. Melody continues. Then right here, we got the C sharp 7 chord. So with my B on top, I could do that one, or I could look around and go right here. Any time that you could hold the chord down while moving around with the melody is a good move too. So the melody goes. Right to our F sharp minor, fits nicely, my melody note on top. And then to our A minor chord. And whether it's like a minor 7, minor 6, whatever, you don't have to really stick hard in that. What you really want to do is just make sure you're bringing out the quality of the chord. So what does that is the root note and the third, and then the melody note on top. That's everything. So if I have the root note and the third, that tells me whether it's minor or major. And then the melody on top is the melody, which also gives the chord whatever character it has. So this one could be that, or we could do this. Or we could do this. See, that would be an A minor 6, but that's a little much. And then we can resolve right back to E. So we could do something simple like this to start. And then if I want to add a couple of guitar moves to it, I could do something like this. For tabs to everything I did in this lesson, check out patreon.com/NastySoul. You get access to that, all the tabs for all previous lessons, including all my great courses on Neo Soul from beginner to intermediate, for rhythm guitar and lead guitar, everything you can imagine, everything that you need to grow as a guitar player in this genre, you got it right there. So thanks for the support, keep jamming and stay nasty.